am a fun leader. I am a fun leader. All right, we are going to talk about the application, the membership application, which should be next up in your stack of papers. The reason why is because at clubs, you're not always going to have your VPM there, or your VPE or VPP, or even your president. And so if they're not there, you will step into that place if you are. But also, what happens a lot at meetings is, what if you have 5 guests? And they're all busy. You don't want your guests waiting in line to sign up. So it's really helpful that all the officers are familiar with this. I'm only going to point out a few things. The first one is on the first page, if you're not familiar with, there's a box on the right-hand side. You've got boxes for new, dual, and reinstated members. What I wanted to point out is if you have a member who is reinstated, or they're coming back after being out of Toastmasters for a certain length of time, and I just learned this recently, actually, that they actually must pay for the full 6-month term. Okay? Like if they want to come back in just, what was it, like 2 months into it, they actually have to pay for the full 6-month term. Okay, that's one thing to note there. Okay. And really, it's just for you to be aware in case, one of the other officers is not there. Okay? Let's just say they've been out of Toastmasters for like 3 years, and they decide they're coming back to Toastmasters, and they were a part of the legacy educational curriculum. When they sign back on, they don't have to pay the initial $20 Pathways fee. They get the path for free because they were a former member. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that only goes through June 30th of 2020 because because July 1st, all the curriculum is all Pathways. Correct? There is on the bottom right of that first page is a little gray box. It says Club Dues and Fees Worksheet. They do not have to pay a new club member fee if they're reinstated or a dual member, okay? Because they were a prior member. They're a prior member or a member of another club, so they don't have to pay that fee over again. All right, let's flip over to page number 2. Page 2, there's a gray box on the left-hand side. That's the Toastmasters promise. Get in the habit of having the new member read the Toastmasters promise and then sign the application form. It's really important to have them read it first, then sign the application form. On page 3, this is where you have all the financial information. When they first join, they may give you a credit card, and they just want to give you the information and be on their way, which happens a lot when in clubs they want to go because it's late at night. So once you input the member in and their financial information for their membership, this bottom half here you really should shred. Tear it off and shred it. Keep their information confidential by just getting rid of it, but also it takes off the liability from you. However, the rest of this membership packet needs to stay in with all the other member forms. We're going to show you where to go to your member profile. See where it says, "Welcome, Lisa. You're a fun leader." You're paying attention. All right. So welcome, Lisa. I'm going to click on that. And it's going to take me to my personal profile. And it shows all my information. You know where I live. You know my educational awards over here to the right. I'm enrolled in 2 paths. You get that information. But what I want you to be aware of is where you can edit your contact information and privacy. So I'm going to go there. Okay, and then we get this little edit account information menu. You got your logon and password, your contact information here, and then your privacy and consents. This is what I want to focus on for just a second here. Privacy and consents. Have you ever taken a look at this? You familiar with it? Okay. Some of you yes, some of you no. This is really important for you to go through and double check to see if this is marked either yes or no. Okay? And it's really your preference of what you want information sent to you. I personally have no on third party for no third party solicitations. Anything else you want to add to that, Circe?
Yeah. The third party box. The third party box prevents you from ordering from the store if you check no.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The third party
Oh, interesting.
It's not like sending your name into the ethers for people to send you stuff.
Oh.
It's for them to use their third party for ordering things. So let's say
I
want to get a Toastmasters t-shirt. That has to be checked yes. The bottom box, the records that she was talking about, you're going to show those later?
No, I'm not going to pull this up again. No.
No,
I'm going to talk about.
You're going to talk about the educational award so they can see where that shows up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You will see how a name or how a person who opted out for public records shows up. It's not a big deal. It just means an extra step for people looking you up. So keep in mind, if you don't care that your name shows in the list, say yes. If it does matter to you, say no. Okay? Okay? And she'll show you the list in just a little bit.
Okay.
Is there anything to consider why you say yes or no?
It's easier when someone like me, who is looking at a report for an entire district and see names, it's just easier. It doesn't prevent me from knowing who's got an educational award. It's just easier. That's it in a nutshell. So I'm saying, make it your preference. You decide.
Yeah.
I have noticed that a large number of people are not making it public, which is fine with me, because I think sometimes there's too much information out there. That's just me. I don't mind mine being out there, but I know that there are a lot of members who have real strong reasons for not wanting to be found publicly, and that's one.
Right. Right.
But again, public use distribution Toastmasters, not our.
Okay. It is available even if somebody does not log into Toastmasters. That's really important. So when you get to that, I want you to log out. So you can go there and show that, okay?
Okay, we're going to stay on Toastmasters International, and we're going to go to Club Central. I'm going to show you a couple of tiles just to review. I want you to spend some time later on going to this on your own if you haven't already. And I'm already logged on to Toastmasters International, so I'm just going to click on the tile, the menu item for Leadership Central. And then I'm going to go over to Club Central. Can everyone see that? You're following me on the screen? Very good. It just takes a little second here. Or two. Or three. I'm not used to.
I think it's probably the internet here.
Oh, is that what it is? It's just a little slow? Okay. So how many of you have been to Club Central? So you're all familiar? You familiar with Club Central? Okay. You can see all the tiles here under Club Central. Where I was talking about where you can add your membership, submit your education awards. Here's the club roster. Submit payments right next to the add the membership. But first note up here on the right-hand side, if you are a member of multiple clubs, make sure that you have the right club signed on, okay? Make sure you're at the right club. So this right now I'm signed in for Advanced Speakers of LA. All right, club roster. It's really important for you to know on the roster how this is formulated. It's done automatically when you enter members and then you submit the members' payments. That automatically goes into and it creates your roster through Toastmasters International. So you can't go in there and edit it yourself. It's done automatically through Toastmasters International. Okay. Club officer assignment is another big one, especially for secretaries to be aware of. All right, how many of you have clubs that meet once a week? You meet once, I'm sorry, once a month.
Yeah, once a week?
Once a month.
Oh.
Once a month, twice a month, which is what most are. So 4 times a month or once a week. There we go. Okay. I'm asking that question specifically because you probably have officer voting, new officers every 6 months, correct? Okay. So it's important to know that you have to have the officers submitted on December 30th and also June 30th. It's not just the once a year on by June 30th. Does that make sense? So you're submitting your officer list as secretary, you're submitting your officer list twice a year. So by December 30th, you should log on to here and make sure that you have the officer list correct on there. Yes?
Even if it doesn't change?
Yes, even if it doesn't change, I would just get in the habit of going on there and checking to make sure that it's all set in place. Yeah. And then if you don't have that, you're not twice a year, it's just once a year. So once in May or June, when you do your vote for your new officer board, it's a secretary's responsibility to ensure that is in there for the new officer board, because that's how the new term officers will get the club will get the DCP points. Before June 30th. I would recommend doing it as soon as you have your voting done in your club for your new officers. It's important to do it before June 30th so that your club gets a DCP point. Yeah, you'll get the DCP point. If you do it, for the new term, if you wait until, like, if you want to say, okay, oh, Miss Secretary, you're the new secretary, you can go and input it. Your club won't get the DCP point. As the outgoing secretary, it's your responsibility to put it in for the incoming club. So one of the tiles in Club Central you will see is your Distinguished Performance Report. That's also known as the DCP. It's your Distinguished Club Performance Report. And this is what it looks like. Right now, since we are technically in a transition period, we're still a part of the legacy curriculum, and we also get points for Pathways curriculum. So you will see on here that there are both that we can get points for. It's important to note at the top of this page, in the middle is this big square here, this big tile, where it says membership. So base, right now you see a base of 14. That means this club has a base of 14 members. So when the Toastmasters year started, they had 14 paid enrolled members. To the right, it shows what they have to date, and that is 11 paid members. It's really important to focus on the number of members that are required in order to get your not to get DCP points, but when you qualify with all your DCP points, you also have to have, like, see on the right, it says goals, 4 goals met, 5 is distinguished, 7 is select, and then 9 or more is president. If you have all those goals met, but if you don't have the members to support that, which we go back to the center tile here, if you don't have 19 for this club, they need 19 members in order for those DCP points to qualify them for the distinguished, either select or presence or whatever the case may be. So basically, it's your base that you started out with a year. You have to have at least a growth of 5 members. That's how they come up with the 19. The 19 required. So it's basically plus 5 members. Now, seriously, I have to ask you this question because it came up last year. There was talk about even if you have 5 required, but you're under the 20, some people said that you had to have 20 members in order to qualify your DCP points for distinguished.
No.
Thank
have
you.
to meet this number.
Okay.
Whatever your number is in your club, that's what you have to meet. Not
Okay.
20. Some are 20. The max is 20.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's 15 because they started as a base of really low. That number is your requirement. Once you meet that requirement, you're qualified. Your club is qualified to become distinguished. And all you concentrate on is your goals.
Wait, so in the rare case that maybe you got 22 members in your club, it doesn't
You're
matter
still-
if they grow, they're already past the 20.
Correct, you're already
So
past the
they can
20,
stay.
20 is the max. So yes. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
But yes,
Yeah.
that is
Okay.
true. It's just look at the requirements.
The point, you'll see check marks on the right-hand side. This means that those line items for DCP points have been met. So I like to go down to pathways, since really that's what we're going to be focusing on moving forward. So for this club, they have one level 1 award in pathways. But you'll notice it says the goal is to have 4. So when they get 3 more level 1s, they are going to get another check mark over here, and that will give them another DCP point. So that's how you acquire the DCP points. Okay? We are going to move over to daily reports, which ties in to what we talked about earlier with where you marking yes or no in the one spot about the reports for the district. You had a quick question?
Is the secretary duty to go over these goals and pick and make sure it's growing?
You know, it's not necessarily the secretary specific, but you need to be knowledgeable and aware of this because it's going to come up throughout the year. And if you have an officer member who is out, then you will need to know what they're talking about, and you can bring that information to them. Yeah, so I'm going to say yes, but indirectly. It's not direct responsibility, but as a leader, as an officer, yes, you should know this, absolutely. So if you noticed, I clicked on daily reports from the DCP, and we're going to go over to educational achievements. This is going to show all the educational achievements for the district. And this is where your information, your awards for the clubs will pop up when the district pulls in their reports. Say when it comes conference time, and we're going to hand out the Triple Crown winners and all those level awards. This is where they pull the information from. So when you mark the yes, they will get that information here. Now, the higher-ups that be in the district use this information for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that has come up recently is, so what they found by pulling their analytics through for the first 6 months of this year for the district is with their 1,800 members, but they're finding there's only about maybe 200 to 300 members of those 1,800 who are actually achieving level awards. So what that means is we have about 14 to 1,500 members who aren't taking advantage of their Toastmasters experience. They're not logging in their rewards, their awards, there's level 1s, their level 2s, and the level 3s, there's CCs. So the question becomes, as an officer of your club, which is why we're talking about this, as an officer of your club, are your members participating? Are they speaking? And then if they speak, are they actually getting credit for those speeches? And it's something to be aware of as a secretary. So when you have your officer board meetings and it comes up with the VP of Education or membership or whoever talks about it, you can address that and you'll have this knowledge to address it. So we're really wondering why are people not getting their full Toastmasters experience? Is it because maybe pathways? Are they not logging on? Are they fearful of the log on? Like, we're just trying to find out what is going on with clubs. So if you take this information back to your club, it will allow you to dive a little deeper and then, bring in the information up along the ranks so we can also dive a little deeper to see where we all can be better in giving everyone the Toastmasters best experience that we can. It's unfortunate because they're actually cutting themselves short. They still can get awards in the legacy program. Once you get a CC, you get a CL, ACG, whatever the case may be, you have that for the rest of your life. It doesn't go away. Even though we're switching over to pathways, you still have those designations that you can keep with you. They don't disappear. And so whatever they get, it's going to stay as that through June 30th, and then they can switch over to Pathways. As officers of our club, we need to be aware of that, and then we need to encourage them, even if they are proceeding that way, well then how can we get them to get an award and be recognized for it? We shouldn't allow them, as a fun leader that we are, allow them to continue doing that and not get recognized. So we need to have a conversation with them about making sure they get their recognition for it. And those are, they'll get the recognition for it, absolutely, up through June 30th. It keeps people going, moving forward to have another goal to look forward to. And each level builds upon the next level. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's not for the sake of just getting an award. That's not the point of it. But again, the point of it is to make the experience fun. We're actually learning and having fun, right? I'm a fun leader. Okay, I switched screens to Toastmasters District 52. This is our district's website. It's district52.org. And this is very pathway specific. So I'm going to go to here, it says educational program and pathways. And it's thinking right now, I can see it turning. It's going to take us to a resource page that you can refer any of your members to, any but like new members that are still getting familiar with pathways. You will see here there is a Pathways quick guide. Get started today. If you click on this, this actually says sheets to walk you through getting set up, getting started. Anyways, when you click on that at home, you'll see a guide that will walk you through starting Pathways, how to choose your path, and so on. Okay? So this is a really good resource for your members. Another source on this page that you want to be mindful of is Pathways projects. We get tons of questions about this, about the paths, what are they about. These little buttons here you'll see are all the paths, 11 paths. And when you click on them, they will give you more information about that path. So know that you can pick any of these paths, or you can take the assessment. And with the assessment, it gives you, when you go through the steps, it gives you 3 choices. You don't have to pick any of those 3. But they're merely suggestions, and you can pick one of those or just pick one of these 3. But this here is where you can just preview each of the paths to get a better idea of what you're signing up for. The reason we're showing you this is because you and also your club members, you may not be aware that you only have 30 days to fully run with these paths. Meaning, if you pick a path that you don't like and you paid for it, it's not the free one, you paid for it, and you decide, say, at day 25, you don't like this path, you want a new one, you can actually exchange it in for another free path. But if you wait beyond the 30 days and you decide later that you want to do a different path, you don't like this one, you can't trade it in. You have to pay for another path. So you have to know relatively quickly whether you're going to move forward with that path or not. That's why we're showing you this right here. Okay. In your set of papers you got, I'm not going to go over it, but it has a breakdown of pathway level 1. All the pathway level 1s are the same, so that's a guide for you to take back to your clubs. It's toward the bottom of your packet. I'm going to move forward really quickly to the meeting standards. Meeting standards is really important, but we don't have time to do a deep dive into it. I do, however, want you to be aware of the standards that Toastmasters has set up for all of our clubs. Along with that, Toastmasters has a manual called Master Your Meetings. You can do a search on the Toastmasters International site to get this. It has everything for you that you will need for a meeting, and it guides you through it with all the standard practices. On the handouts that you can take home with you, you have a meeting standards worksheet, and it talks about what Toastmasters International expects, what they suggest, and then it gives you an area to talk about how does your club measure up compared to what Toastmasters expects, and what Toastmasters suggests. So this is kind of like a self-assessment for you and your club moving forward, and ways that you can improve your club. Now, the secretary is responsible for keeping all these clear and accurate records of the club meetings, including, of course, the records, correspondence, etc. But that information is in here and in this booklet for you as well, to dive in deeper on responsibilities for you as a secretary. Okay? The worksheet is called Meeting Standards Worksheet. It's the last 3 in your list. Meeting Standards Worksheet. Okay? Okay, so what to expect? Toastmasters expects that you're going to have prepared speeches. You're going to have evaluations, and you're going to have table topics at every meeting. Okay? What they recommend you have, what they suggest you have, of course, your handout talks about the meeting begins and ends on time. Members and guests alike, they're both greeted, right, as they arrive, and you help them feel welcomed. And that's a responsibility not just of the secretary, but of all the officers and all the members. One of the things that I found particularly interesting was invocations and pledges. This is a big one, I think, in this current climate. Lectern etiquette and the importance of preparation. I learned, I'm sharing this with you because, again, with our current climate, it's so interesting. Invocations and pledges are actually not a club standard that they expect. It's a club standard that they recommend. So I know some clubs are kind of steering away from Pledge of Allegiance, say. That is a pledge. I know, my eyes opened up too. I'm like, what? Say what? We have to. But then I learned it's not expected. It's actually recommended. So it's up to the club to determine whether that's what they want to do or not. And then the club would take a vote on that. So that's just one example of what they suggest. Other suggestions are, of course, members being recognized at the club, like we do at some of our clubs. We give the ribbons, the level ribbons, and some get certificates. And of course, and I think this should be expected, they suggest it. Because why? We are fun leaders. Yeah, so they suggest that our members are enthusiastic and that we enjoy themselves and that it shows. I think it should be expected, and you should practice enjoying yourself at your club meeting. And I want to leave you with, the next time you walk into your club meeting, before you walk through that door, what are you going to say to yourself?
I am fun leader.
But that looked like it was painful. Come on.
I was right there.
I am a fun leader.